Hey y'all, this is Allie Spears, your host of the Ag Chicks podcast, where I cultivate connections with the women who are helping feed the world. Brandi and I were just talking about how
I was eating my lunch when the podcast started.
Right, but just having like our real lives being kind of chaos in a way and being hot messes, because I can definitely relate to that. And it makes me feel better when people say that their lives are like that as well, because then I feel like I'm not insane.
Yeah, you're definitely not insane. That's not happening.
Oh man. But Brandi, I kind of want to start off by just talking about, like, you guys are in Kansas, right?
Yep.
And have you always been in Kansas, or was that a relocation?
So we live in the same county that I was born and raised. So I've always wanted to live in Kansas after, I grew up here. I've lived in Kansas my entire life, except for like 11 months when my husband and I lived in Australia for almost a year. And we went there right after. I feel like your next question is like, why were you in Australia? So I'm just going to answer that in advance.
Yeah.
My husband was a Fulbright scholar when we were in grad school. And so a Fulbright scholarship pays for a year of graduate study in another country. And you have to go where you can speak the language. Like, you have to already be fluent in the language of the country you're going to go to. So that he speaks English, and that's really going to narrow it down for him.
Yeah.
He wanted to work with pigs. So basically that narrowed it down to like Canada, Australia, stuff like that. So we went to Australia. We were there for about 11 months. We got married in January of 2011 and moved to Australia in February 2011. And we were there for the entirety of that year. So outside of that, I have lived in Kansas my whole life. So I live in the county I grew up in. Yeah.
Okay, but how cool to live in Australia. Where in Australia were you guys at?
We were stationed, or like focused, in Melbourne, which is like, the Australia is like kind of an upside down heart. So if you think about like where Florida is in United States, that's where Melbourne is. It's the capital city of the state of Victoria. It's the southernmost point of the mainland of Australia. There's a little island down there called Tasmania, which is beautiful and lovely, and everybody should go to it. But we're north of that. So we lived in Melbourne, but we were fortunate to be able to travel around. We got to go to lots of different places, so that was really good. It was a great experience. I encourage everybody to get out of the United States and see other cultures and see and hear other perspectives on things.
Yes, for sure. I went there for like 4 days, so I can't even, not 11 months, can't relate to that.
But it was like, it's still 4 days. Like, that's still outside of the comfort zone. So good for you.
Yes, but that's definitely somewhere I want to go back to. So we were you're going to stretch my memory here. We were in Sydney for, I think, 2 days, and then the Blue Mountains, if that's...
Yeah. You don't think mountains, you think of Australia, and they're not like the mountains we have in the United States. They're like red mountains with not pine trees on them, but they are the Blue Mountains. Yeah, that's in Queensland.
Yes, yeah. So we were there for, I think, 2 days as well. But that was like on a couple location trips. So we were in Sydney, we went to Fiji.
Actually, I think it's in New South Wales. Actually, I think they're in New South Wales, like Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland. I think that's how it goes. Sorry.
Okay, no, that makes sense, because I was like, I know where you're talking about, but I don't think that's where I was. So
about where it
is. Yeah.
Look later. Yeah, which state they're in. I have my states backward. But anyway, you went to Fiji. How long were you in Fiji?
We were in Fiji for 3 days, I think. And that was such an incredible experience. I would definitely go back to Australia, Fiji, and then we were also in New Zealand, which was also just absolutely beautiful. So I'd go back. Highly recommend all of those places.
I have not been to New Zealand, other than like when we lay over on the way to Australia. We always fly into Auckland. We have like a 2-hour layover before we fly the rest of the way to Australia. But we honeymooned in Fiji, and so we were there for like 8 days or something like that, and that was really nice. But it sounds like maybe you were like on an ag tour or something like that, or
so it was
so many spots in like a short amount of time. So what were you doing?
Yeah, and then we finished in Hawaii. So it was like, I want to say we were gone for like 2 weeks total, but it was a couple days in each of the locations. It was actually through EF Tours. My AP biology teacher in high school was like certified to be a tour guide through them, and so she basically opened up to any students who wanted to go. So I think there was about 25 of us that ended up going.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was really fun. That was before my senior year of high school.
That's awesome to get and go do that when you're in high school. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I always like attribute that experience to me being so independent as a traveler now, because that'll teach you how to pack in a carry-on and get through security
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah, it was a very cool experience. But for you, I'm assuming as well, unique to see kind of that side of the world in agriculture as well, and kind of experience that, or was it mostly just kind of cultural stuff that you guys did?
No, it was agriculture. I mean, he was working, his master's is in swine nutrition. So he was working on, I mean, he had a project designed that he worked on like while he was there. And
Very
so while
cool.
he was doing that, I wrote my master's thesis and I did some other like jobs. So I was a tutor at so universities, they're all called, a college is called a university. And then like what we would call a fraternity or what's the other one? Fraternity,
Sorority.
what we would call those, they call those colleges. And so
Okay.
we actually lived in a college house there, like on campus it was basically a co-ed fraternity and sorority. And we were like basically because I was tutoring classes, we got the opportunity to live there. So I tutored classes, I was a teacher's assistant, and then I also was a graduate research assistant there, or like a research assistant with the University of Melbourne, where my husband Hyatt was doing his project. So I helped on projects that involved sheep, which is not something I had ever done, like sheep projects. We don't have a lot of that in the United States, but I helped with a lot of like heat stress and like agronomy type experiments with sheep, and helped him with his pig research and his swine nutrition research, and did some stuff with dairy cows and rumen fluid. So I got to do a lot of different things. And then I freelance. That's how I got started freelance writing. And so I did all of it. So his assistantship or like scholarship money paid our bills and our rent and stuff like that. And, and then the money that I made on all these many side jobs paid for us to go to all these adventures around the rest of Australia. And so I saw the different kinds of agriculture, like they have a lot of canola there. They're not growing much corn, if any at all. It's a very water intensive crop, and they don't have a lot of water in Australia in terms of rainfall or just in
Right.
general. And so there's lots of differences in agriculture and food production and just food consumption in general. But we also got to see a lot of the cultural differences as well. We were based out of Melbourne, but we went to Perth, which is the far west coast. We went to Northern Australia, which is kind of deceiving because like the center of the country is technically in the state of Northern Australia because the country is just so big. So we went to what they call Ayers Rock, but in the indigenous language, it's Uluru. We went to Adelaide, which is the capital of Australia, twice. We went to Sydney, of course. We went up the Gold Coast, Cairns, also went to I can't remember the other place we went to. Went to the rainforest up there, one of them up there. I feel bad that I can't remember the name of it. It was 12 years ago. So anyway, but had a good mix of city and cultural experiences, the arts and theater and stuff like that. But we also obviously spent as much time doing agricultural things and out in the country as we could. So looking back, it was a really, really valuable experience. And we still have friends from there that we stay in contact with. So it was really hard. If you ever want to test your new marriage, get married and move literally across the world. This was before smartphones. So you couldn't just like FaceTime someone, couldn't just like pick up a phone and text. And so move across the country and be newlyweds by yourself with no family or friends to support you. And if you can get through that, you can get through anything.
That's what I was gonna say. What a just like leap of faith, right? Like, hey, let's
Yeah.
get married and move across the
Yeah.
world.
I mean, we had been planning to get married. Like that
Yeah,
wasn't a last minute thing.
right.
Movie, like I wanted to get married before I like followed this man literally
Yeah.
around the world. So that sped up the process a little bit. We were still engaged like a year before we got married, but I would have preferred to have a fall wedding instead of a wedding where a blizzard blew in the day
Oh
before.
my
So
goodness.
that's okay. It worked out great. Everything is fine. But yeah, so that was our Australian adventure, and we really liked it.
Well, how cool. And so what did you get your master's in, and what did you focus on?
My master's is in animal science, behavior, and well-being.
Okay.
So animal behavior and well-being. I earned that at Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas, and I did all of my work with cattle and hogs. So like the stuff that I helped with in Australia on the sheep, that was not that wasn't part of my program studies. I was just like a lab assistant and collected samples and did stuff like that. So, but yeah, my master's was in animal science.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, wow. What a start to your new life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. And so it was hard because like I'm an introvert, I'm a homebody. I had been out of the country a couple times before then. Like I'd been overseas to Europe on a study abroad trip with K-State College of Ag, and I had been on almost a 3-week trip to South Africa with the College of Ag. So like I was experienced with like traveling out of the country and going overseas and stuff like that. But being that far away from family and friends and like having to make new friends and just being like cut off, basically, that was really hard for the first.
Yeah, so for sure. So then you guys came back, and then what kind of happened after that? Like settling into obviously life back in America.
That so we moved back like in December of 2011. So we were in Australia like 10 and a half months or something like that, 11 months. Yeah, something like that. And then Christmas and stuff. And then January, moved back to find somewhere to live in Manhattan, and went back and I finished my master's in that spring, early summer of 2012.
Okay.
Hyatt, my husband, he finished his master's sometime in there. And then he started on his PhD. And so then I went to work after I finished my thesis and my master's, I went to work for the Beef Cattle Institute, which was part of Kansas K-State Research and Extension. And I did that for about a year. I was the communications coordinator there. I helped promote beef quality assurance, things like that. And then so we were just in Manhattan, and Manhattan is a lot of fun a college town is a lot of fun in the summer when they're still all the college students go home. And so it was really enjoyable to live in Manhattan. And like, so we were married and we waited 6 years before we had kids. So being married without kids and not being in college and actually having like a real income, you get to do a lot more stuff. And so It was fun to go to, it was a lot of fun. It was a chapter of my life that I look back on fondly. So.
Right. Yeah. No, I live in Bryan, College Station area where Texas A&M is. So I can relate to that because I'm a student in terms of like graduate student, but then I have a full-time job as well. And so the town definitely changes when the students are not here, but then you miss them when they come back, you're excited that they're back too. It's kind of a interesting dynamic of like the outside, but still being involved in it.
I don't know. I wasn't ever really excited after I went and finished my master's, and I've been living in Manhattan for like 6 years or 7 years. Okay. I know they have to come back, but like traffic is back. You can't buy anything at the grocery store, is sold out.
Grocery store. Yeah. Traffic. Can't get into restaurants.
Yeah. One of my favorite things in the summer for my husband and I was we didn't have any cattle or anything at the time. We just had the horses and our dogs. And so like and we both worked like he was in the grad office and I was at a full-time job, but like we would go and like, have cheap, happy hour drinks or whatever at the empty Aggieville, during the summer. That's always really enjoyable. Like we don't need to go out and do like a pub crawl. It's just enjoyable to like go to happy hour and not be like crammed and just like enjoy
it
and then still be able to go home. So I don't know. I was always a little salty when they came back, but everybody has to go to school. I mean, I guess not everybody has to go to school, but like they got to come back. It's a college.
They got to come back. Yeah, kind of need them to keep things going. I guess
are the lifeblood of a college town, so you kind of have to. Come back.
Yes. No. I understand that as well, though. Yeah, traffic and just ease of getting around town when they come back is difficult.
Yeah.
So then. Okay, you graduated, you guys were in Manhattan, and then you moved out of Manhattan.
We left
now.
Yeah, so in 2015, my husband finished his PhD. I guess he defended his PhD. We moved in August. We moved in July. We moved on July 31st. So he wasn't quite done with his PhD yet. He was our lease was up though. So it was like, we're not going to sign a new lease because we need to move. Like he's going to finish his PhD in September. So we're not, and our lease is up at the end of July. So like, we just moved. So we moved back to where I grew up. My husband had interviewed for like 13 jobs or something he had like 13. Let me rephrase that. He had like 13 job offers.
Wow.
And so we had decided that, we wanted to be close to one or both, like one or like our family. He's from Ohio, and I'm from Kansas, so we can't live near both of them, right?
Right.
We also didn't want to live in, like 6 or 7 hours from both of them, because we have a support system. We know we wanted to have a family and kids, but so like it's, so we moved to where I'm from. He has a great job. He was able to work remotely. He had to travel quite a bit when he first started, but so we moved down here. Took us like 6 or 8 weeks to find a place, get an offer made, and like all that. It was kind of actually a dramatic issue with the former owner, or the person that owned the house. So we lived with my dad for like 6 weeks. Yeah, that's always fun, being an adult and moving back in with your parents, no matter how
Yep.
long. But yeah, so we moved back to Southeast Kansas in 2015. And by that time, I was working for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and I was remote. I started working there in 2013, so I was already remote, so it wasn't a big deal for me to move down there or down here and remain remote. So yeah, and now we're here. We've been on the ranch, and I don't anticipate moving anytime soon. So
Yeah. And so you were remote before remote was really a thing,
yeah,
right?
I was remote before that was like
Cool. It was before it was cool to be remote.
I guess, yeah, I've been remote for, it'll be 11 years in April.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And so you guys moved to the ranch, and do you have family like traditions in ranching, or how did that kind of
Um,
evolve into now?
I grew up on what you would call like a hobby ranch.
Okay.
So we had 4-H animals, always had like show pig or a couple show pigs every year for the fair, and some show sheep, bucket calves. We've always had rope. We always had calves and steers, rope and cattle to rodeo. My family has rodeoed. My parents rodeoed. I rodeo still. So like we always had cattle growing up and horses and stuff like that. But we didn't have any cattle that we like contributed to the food supply.
Okay.
Like that was never the goal, like production agriculture. So that's why I call it a hobby ranch. But my dad and I'm at least a third generation, like agricultural, like, I don't want to say agricultural employee, but like employed by agriculture. So like my
Right.
dad, when I was young, he managed a trucking operation and a feed yard. Like there was a diversified ag company that owned a feed yard and a trucking company and a seed business. And so he was the manager over all of these. So when I was growing up, I was immersed in agriculture that way, even though we weren't like involved directly in production agriculture. And before my dad, my grandpa cowboyed on, all over ranches and stuff like that in the Midwest. And so like I said, I'm like a third generation employed or involved in agriculture, but this is, the first time we've been now like involved in production agriculture for like 7.5 years. My husband's family, however, he grew up on a diversified crop and livestock operation. His parents had a
Okay.
small cow-calf herd. They still do. They have, they farm corn and soybeans and maybe occasionally wheat in Northwest Ohio. So, yeah, he grew up in this like production ag lifestyle. So
Okay. And
like you asked about family, like I live and my dad lives a mile away, and his 2 sisters and my grandpa and many of my cousins all live within like 7 miles. So like a lot of my family is like right here in this county. So
right. Well, that makes it nice, especially now with the girls and everything having kind of
yeah,
family close.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I don't know how people who don't have family nearby um have kids and jobs and hobbies and things like that. Like I imagine, I mean, that just seems like insurmountably difficult. So, because I know that we would be, I mean, it would just be so hard, like hard beyond belief for us to have kids and all these cows, and both of us have employment that we have to travel. Like I don't know how we would do that without family and friends. So
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. Right now, so I live in Texas, but I'm from California, and my whole family is still in California. And so I keep telling them like, "Hey, you need to go ahead and make the decision to move to Texas
oh,
because once I get to that point in life, you're gonna have to be here." So
okay.
we'll see
Yeah,
how that shakes out. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's difficult. I mean, it having a family is difficult anyway, but when you throw in kids and cattle, like every time you add something to your plate, it gets harder to, I don't want to use the word balance, but it gets harder to carry the plate evenly,
yeah,
I'm gonna say. So
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, even just right now, I make several phone calls a week to my dad about the cows in terms of, because we just have a couple head just on our farm, on our ranch here. But you know, things I thought I knew, and then I'm questioning everything because I'm having to do it alone for the first time.
Yeah.
But that was kind of my question for you was the cattle. Was that something that you and your husband knew you kind of always wanted to get into, or how did that kind of evolve?
Yeah, from very early on. I knew I wanted to be involved in production agriculture, but I wasn't sure exactly how. Like I thought maybe I would come back and have a, live on the ranch or something like that and rodeo and maybe have some cattle with whoever I ended up marrying or something like that. I didn't have like a real clear vision. My husband, like, he was always like, hey, in his mind, he was going to have cattle or hogs or crops or all of them or whatever. So when we met and started dating and we're starting to get serious and talk about the future, which didn't take very long, yeah, it was just kind of like a natural. It wasn't like one of us wanted cows and the other one had to be like talked into it. It was
Right.
just, it was a mutual love of that. And for the first however many, we had cattle for a year-ish, yeah, close to a year before we ever had kids. And like we've always done everything together, and so that just extended to the cattle. And we started out with like no working facilities and a bunch of like put together cows, and it was just not how you should probably get into the beef industry, but we did everything together because we wanted to be doing it together, and we also we both wanted to be involved with it. So it was it was never like a, can we please get cows, one of us begging or anything like that.
Yeah, I think when it's a mutual agreement and there's like passion on both sides, that makes the whole process a lot easier too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can't say that we both always love it when it's like we had to we fly tagged our grass cattle in June or something like that. And
Uh-huh.
it was a hot and disgusting day, and it was like fly, and even when we started early, and we were done before like noon, but even when you start early, like it's still hot and gross, and I'm just like, this was not the dream. When you're thinking
Right.
about, but what the dream is when it's like fall calving now, and I'm like riding in pasture and it's turning fall and there's the cows and new babies running around, or you're checking for a new one. Like that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
The dream gets you through like the hot, dusty, cow poop covered days, or the late February blizzard that we are prone to have here. Like the dream, the basically like a month of spring and a couple months of fall get you through the other the other 9 months, or like probably like April through June, and then again like October and November get you through the rest of the year. So we go to grass in May, and it's hard to be on a nice like 75-degree day in early May watching the cows. They get off the trailer, they drop their heads and start eating knee-high green grass. Like that's hard to beat that vision. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the dream. That's a good way to put it. Have the few short months of the dream to get you through the, I don't want to say nightmare because that's not true, but just
that's
the
not a
hard
nightmare.
times.
It's tough time. It's not a nightmare,
Yeah.
but it's a
Yeah.
tough time.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys have a lot going on, obviously. So you've got
A little,
um
a little.
and like, okay, so tell me about that. Like you have so much going on, but like how, just explain what you got going on. What irons do you have in the fire right now, I guess first?
Our whole family, or me alone, or what?
Um
What can of worms are you looking, or what bucket of marbles are you wanting here, Allie?
let's start with you, I guess. And then if there's overlap with family, great. And we can kind of circle back to that too if we have time.
Okay, well, everything overlaps with family here. So,
Then perfect.
yeah. So personally, I'm an independent contractor in communications arena. So, I'm an editor of the Red Angus magazine with the Red Angus Association of America. So that's one of my clients, and I manage their social media. Previously, I was the director of communications and the editor of the magazine full time for the Red Angus Association of America for about 5.5 years. But I just recently went to contract, so I could own my own business. So I do that. I also do a lot of freelance writing. Why am I forgetting everything that I do? I do a lot of freelance writing. I host a podcast. Excuse me. I host a podcast called the Beef Podcast Show. I have a video series on Acres TV. So that's behind the scenes ranch life, and then also ag commentary about like ag issues or food policy or things like that. So I have the video series, hosting a podcast, freelance writing. Oh, public speaking. How did I forget that? I do a lot of public speaking, whether that be as a keynote speaker to groups across the country, to leading workshops about social media strategy and growing your brand, to hands-on workshops about like how to craft a response to fear-based marketing. So I do a lot of public speaking. I lead mastermind groups with like if you have a group of ag influence or something like that, and they're trying to like bounce ideas off each other, like how they can make an impact or how they can tweak their strategy. So I lead like a mastermind group. I have periodically offer my calendar to a group of a set number of people, and they can like we just do the group mastermind. And so I lead those. I have a video series. I do a lot of, I don't do a lot. I do brand partnerships that I believe in, that we are part of our everyday practices. So I don't take on a brand partnership if it's not a product that I'm already using, or a product that I believe in, or an idea or a company whose values and thoughts align with mine. So I do select brand partnerships in that. So I think that's everything. Those are all my like employment irons, like the different contracts and ways that like my business has grown. And then as a family, my husband has a full-time job. He is the US director for a swine feeding technology company it's a worldwide company, but he leads the US division. That company is called Giga, Jyga, because I know it sounds weird to say Giga, so it's Jyga, Giga. Then we also have our purebred Gelbvieh and balancer seedstock operation. So we sell bulls and heifers. We calve in the fall, so we sell 18-month-old age advantaged bulls and heifers. It's exciting. Our first private treaty open house is coming up this December. So that's very exciting for us to have gone from, selling like 4 bulls private treaty to now having like close to 30. So we're having like an open house. That's exciting for us. Since the pandemic started, we have really expanded on our freezer beef business. It used to just be, we might sell like 2 or 3 a year, maybe, just from like, we had like a calf born randomly that didn't fit the rest of the group or something. And now it's like a dedicated part of our ranch's, like it's diversified arm of income for our ranch. And so that's really grown tremendously. We have some awesome repeat customers, and we're always like, getting more people. We live at like an hour from Kansas City, the Kansas City metro area. So it's, we're close enough to be able to connect with consumers there, because we do not ship. I'm not shipping beef. I do not want to devote that much. It takes so much time to do that. So I'm not doing it. And then, so we have the purebred cattle, we have the freezer beef. And then the past couple of years, we've tried to take advantage of the cattle market, and we have run grass cattle. So we get our, in 2021, we got our grass cattle in December, and had those through like the following August. And then this past year, we actually didn't get them until March of 23. And then we just sold them we just marketed them maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago or something like that. So, but we're trying to take advantage of the market. We are not going to become full-time stocker operators. It's not something that I desire to be. I'm usually pretty comfortable with risk. I'm not that comfortable with risk. I feel like it takes a very special person to want to be a stocker operator, like as their full time. And I respect people that want to do that, but that is not something for me. I get anxiety as I think about it. So
that's a lot.
More power to those folks. I hope that they continue to do a great job of it, so that doesn't ever have to be something I'm forced to do, is become a full-time stocker operator. So I think that's it. Oh, and then I rodeo as much as possible. I rode, before you and I got on the phone, I told you I was outside. I rode 2 horses. I went to a roping yesterday all day, and then I'm going to roping tomorrow. Since this is September now, we're like out of rodeo season for the most part, and into like jackpot season and stuff. So I'm trying to, and generally the fall and winter is when you work on your young horses and like work on yourself so that you're ready to go when summer hits again. So yeah. And then we have 2 kids. So
you're lots of spare time.
Yeah. I don't like having spare time though, because I always feel like, I like some spare time, but when I'm just like, if I have like a whole day, I'm like, and I just were, if I were to spend a whole day watching football, which I absolutely love, and I would not hate that, I would probably at the end of the day be like, man, I could have gotten a lot done today. Like, why didn't I at least have my laptop on my lap? So we try to play hard, but we also work really hard. So
Yeah.
usually from like 8 to 10:30 or 8:30 to 10:30 or 11 at night is like our time to de-stress. I work on projects at night that I didn't get done during the day, or we watch football as much as we can. So like, you know, March through August there's not a lot to watch at night. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, I mean, it works for us.
By ranchers for ranchers. Together, let's make ranching easier. Previously known as Cattle Vac Box, Strayhorn has rebranded to better match their ability to push the envelope in creating innovative animal management products to serve the ranching community. Strayhorn is rooted in tradition and ranching legacy, but they believe in the opportunity of looking at things with a new perspective to drive the industry forward. Check out all of the things that Strayhorn has to offer you and your herd.
But yeah, no, I think it's sometimes I'm the same way. Like, I like being busy and having things doing. Like, I feel like I'm at my best when have a lot going on. But I think that is intimidating to people too. Like, they don't understand it. So when I can talk to somebody who does get it, I really enjoy it, because it's just for me, I just wouldn't have it any other way, and life without all the things doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think I would be bored. I don't know. I think I'd be bored or not as productive if I didn't have most minutes of every day planned.
Yeah.
I'm really good at multitasking, and I'm very, very efficient with my time. And I feel like I wouldn't be as good at either of those things if I didn't have such like a full schedule.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think keeps me sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So how did you, going back to kind of the beginning of all of that, how did you get into the communication side? I know you said you like started doing freelancing when you guys were living in Australia, but how did you decide like that's the route you wanted to take kind of career-wise, was the communication side of stuff?
So I started my blog Buzzard's Beat, which is my last name with an S, Buzzard's Beat. And I started that in 2009. So it's been 14 years ago, in October, actually. I need to plan something. I don't know, but it's been 14 years. I started that blog because I went to Kansas State University, which is one of the, the top ag universities in the college agricultural universities in the United States. And like the K-State Collegian, the school newspaper, kept like printing these anti-ag op-eds. And I was like, well, that's not okay. And so I wrote one to respond to this. And I like broke the first rule of a letter to the editor, which is like, check the requirements. If it's only 300 words, don't write like a 600-word essay. Well, I sent in a 600-word essay and they were like, no, thank you. And so I didn't know what to do with it. And I talked to a journalist who used to work for Drovers. His name's Chuck Jolly. He's very prominent, very talented writer and journalist in the cattle industry. And he was like, well, I asked him like, what should I do? How do I make my voice heard, et cetera. And he was like, well, send it to me and I'll let you know like what I think, et cetera. I thought he was going to like edit it and make it better. He just put it on drovers.com instead, which was great. And I thought, oh, that was cool. Let's do that. And so I started my blog. And then from there, it was writing. A lot of it was just writing about ag issues and things like that, because I didn't have cattle at the time. So it was like kind of all encompassing of ag, a lot of like animal rights activist type updates. And then it really wasn't until I was like in grad school. I guess I was in grad school at that time anyway, but I was a little further into grad school and I was like, I really like doing this. So that's when I started, I was blogging more. I was in a group called Food for Thought at K-State. It was just like a grassroots advocacy group led by students. And so I was writing press releases and stuff there to promote events for them. And then, I went to Australia and was freelancing, talking about our agricultural experience there to try to get things under, get some experience. So I would say it was like really that 2010 time period where I was like, this is kind of what I want to do. I never really had the goal of being self-employed at that time. If you told me in 2010 that I'd be self-employed doing all this, like I would have been shocked. But came back, continued while I worked at the Beef Cattle Institute at K-State, I continued to freelance for different ag publications like Drive magazine and Boar magazine, things like that, and get my feet under me with it. And then I had already been doing advocacy work at that point for like almost 2 years or 3 years, and I had writing samples under my belt and stuff like that. So when the job opportunity came open at NCBA, and it was an advocacy and issues communication based position, like it was kind of right in my wheelhouse, so I applied for that. If you can ever, it's like word of wisdom for those who are listening, if you can ever be interviewed by one of your references when you apply for a job, like I highly recommend that. So I applied for the job. I asked a friend of mine, a guy that I really respect in the communications industry and the beef industry, and was like, hey, could you be my reference? And he was like, yeah. And then so when I went out to interview at NCBA, I walked in the room and he was interviewing me, and I was like, well, that helps, like, right? So yeah, so I would say it was 2010 when I really kind of decided that's what I wanted my degree to be in. I still enjoy, like, if there were remote opportunities for me to be like in quality control or some type of like animal well-being role remotely, I would love that. It's just not, there's not those opportunities available. Like, I'm not going to move. We're not going to move. We have land leases tied up and we have all these cows. Like, that's not feasible. And when I finished and defended and like graduated with my master's degree, at that time, most of the animal welfare type or animal well-being type positions were either at a slaughter facility, like a meat plant, Tyson, Cargill, etc., or like as a university professor. So there weren't really a lot of opportunities because we didn't want to be in a college town, and I was only available in one college town, and I didn't have I don't have my PhD. And so there was just not as many opportunities in that realm as there is now. I have a colleague from when I worked at NCBA, and then my former my major professor, like I tell them, I would love to like get a PhD that combines like animal welfare and sustainability like together. But I don't know how to do that remotely, and I'm not going to move to Colorado State to do it. So maybe someday I'll get my PhD in ag comm and animal science, some weird like thing together. I don't know, maybe someday. But anyway, that's how I got here to where I am. So I was at NCBA for almost 5 years, and then applied for the job, the director of communications job at Red Angus. So
yeah,
there you go.
back to
long-winded.
No, I think it's so fascinating to hear people's journey of like how and what they did to get to kind of where they are, because I think in a lot of ways they don't typically follow the plan that we think we have for ourselves, right?
Yeah,
and
I thought I'd be like work at an ag lending company or work, farm insurance or something like that. I thought that's what I would be doing, and I couldn't be further from it.
Right.
Yeah,
but your point about the PhD. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That it's not bad. That those roles aren't bad at all. They're just not what I'm doing. And so it's just funny the way when we have our plans, then God's like, haha, no, that's not what you're gonna do.
Yeah, 100%. I can totally relate to that. I thought I was going to do something. I got my undergrad in ag business, and then I thought I was going to do something. I don't even know. Ag law was kind of the realm I thought I was going to go into. And here I am working for poultry science, which I have zero background in, and getting my PhD in ag comm. And so funny how worlds.
I just noticed the chicken in the chair behind you.
My little chickens up here.
No, in the chair, in that black chair behind you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be my chicken pillow.
I just noticed it's like chicken sitting there. This little head popped up. Oh gosh. I hope those of you who are listening, like, you need to go online and watch the episode on YouTube or wherever it's posted, because it's been there the whole time, and I just noticed there's a chicken there.
Yes. Yeah, I have quite the collection of chicken things in an office for someone who is terrified of chickens. So
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, they freak me out. I don't know. Something about them. They're just kind of.
So you're getting your PhD in poultry science?
No, so I work for the poultry science department as a program coordinator.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm getting my PhD in ag comm.
Okay. I was like, you may be the wrong PhD program. Right?
I've learned to appreciate them, but I prefer not to hold them.
They're like tiny dinosaurs. So
yeah,
that's what we say at our house. They're tiny dinosaurs. Although I do tell my oldest daughter, Oakley, will be 7 in December, and I'm just like, because I don't know why she's afraid of them. She's never had like a bat. She's just a very timid child by nature, and there's nothing wrong with that. But she's like kind of scared of them, and she's gotten a lot better. Like she'll go in the pen. Like a couple of years ago, the child was just like terrified to go in. And I was like, what are chickens? They're just birds. And so that's her response. And so like, I'm just trying to get her used to, she's never going to pick one up, but I need her not to be terrified to go in and look for eggs. So.
Yeah. But isn't that funny? Because is she scared of cattle or horses?
No.
Yeah. That's what people are like, wait, you're not scared of cows?
Yeah. But she loves tiny, like I always talk about how chickens are tiny T-Rexes. She loves dinosaur stuff. And like big animatronic dinosaurs don't scare her, but like tiny ancestors, you know, millions of years after the dinosaurs are terrifying her, not the actual original thing.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. They're interesting little creatures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
Kids or
what?
I said, are you talking about kids or chickens?
Well, both. The chickens.
Both. I love it. There's your tagline for the episode.
Oh yes. Okay, that's gonna be the clip.
There you go. Yes, exactly.
Oh man.
What's an intriguing creature? Chicken or a kid?
Right? Oh man, that's too funny. Oh man. Well, kind of to wrap things up today, is really just kind of a personal question, I think, more than anything.
Oh my.
Personal question for myself in terms of looking back on kind of all the things that you've done and that you're doing. Is there something that you think is like either a trait of yourself or just something that's happened that has allowed you to really do things in the way that you do them? I know that's complex.
Not what I thought you were going to ask me. I don't know. I feel like even though I don't like change, or I'm slow to accept change sometimes, I don't just like run away from it. I don't know. I'm trying to like compress things here.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I've always prided myself on is that I am who I am. Like the person that you're talking to here, this is me in person on this podcast. But like if we were going to go with me grocery shopping here in the next, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the doctor's office and go to the grocery store after this. I would be like the exact same. And so that's something I really prided myself on, is like the authenticity of just all of my channels, you know, like whether it be on Facebook and talking about, you know, what we do on the ranch, and that's like a grocery shopper facing outlet. Or, you know, on the Acres TV video series, like that's more focused at like ranchers and farmers and other agricultural producers and people who involved in agriculture. Like I'm literally the same awkward, rambly, sarcastic, you know, outspoken person in person as I am on camera. So I think that, I mean, love me or hate me, I stick true to who I am. I guess that's, and I don't know how that's helped me in life. I can't really say that it's been like the quote unquote key to success, because I think success is relative for each different person. But yeah, I guess love me or hate me, no one can ever fault me for being like fake. So I kind of always hang my hat on that. And so when I do get approached by a brand partnership, generally they are asking for like authenticity. And I'm like, well, I can do that because I literally don't know how to do anything else. So yeah, I guess maybe that's it. I don't even know if that answered your question, but
no, it
was
definitely did.
Family, which is true to form for me.
No, it definitely did. And I think that's so important, especially like in the world that we live in, where there's so much comparison and like seeing quite literally what other people are doing every hour of the day. I think that's something that can be lost sometimes. So I think that's important.
I have tried to be like that. And this isn't focused at like any person directly, but just like the realm of people, whether it be mommy bloggers or home decor influencers or whatever it is, like their photos always looks like everything looks so like polished and perfect. And I have tried to do that, and I literally cannot do it. Like, I don't know how to make things look so perfect I don't know how to do that. I mean, if someone taught me how to do it, I would probably do it, but I don't know. And so it feels like too hard to try to be that way, honestly. So it feels easier to just be myself, honestly.
Yeah.
So the easy thing, I don't know. I'll just take the easy thing, I guess.
Yeah. No, I get that for sure. What do you think I was going to ask you?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me if there's anything I would like change or advice for someone like getting started in their career or something like that. And I had an answer for that and you didn't ask it. So I feel stupid because I wasn't.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, man. Would you like to answer that as well?
Well, now it feels like set up and forced. It doesn't feel like. But sure. The difference between me now, I feel like a major difference between me now in my career and that I'm closer to 40 than I am 30 now at this point, which I'm not ashamed. Like, it's a privilege to grow old. I just want people to know that. Like, everybody's afraid of getting older. It is a privilege to grow old. But like something I've noticed a big difference between me, like Brandi Buzzard now and Brandi Buzzard like 7 years ago, is that like I don't like wait for opportunities to come to me anymore. Like I'm thinking of something and I'm just going to go out and do it and approach someone about doing this rather than things coming to me. Things still come to me and I'm very grateful for those things that come to me. But I'm also working to create my own opportunities and not just hope that the phone rings or hope that I get that email. Because sometimes the phone doesn't ring or the email doesn't come. So what are you going to do in those cases? So I'm working, and Brandi up until about the age of close to 30 did not have that mindset. Like in high school, I was never like, I want to achieve this. And this is a program in college I want to do, like that's not the way I was. I was just like, waiting for things to come to me. And that's fine if things are coming. But yeah, I wanted to make things happen for myself. So
no, I think that's also like such an important thing. Not to keep talking about like today's society, but I think a lot of younger people are in that mindset of, oh, it'll come to me if I wait, or sometimes you have to go out and do it yourself too.
And it certainly can. I mean, it certainly could come to you, like I got my start public speaking. I was a public speaker all through high school and like with 4-H and FFA. And I was really good at public speaking in FFA. And in college, I did public speaking things like clubs and stuff like that and presentations. And then, my job at NCBA, I traveled to lots of different states and did advocacy trainings and like I trained people how to be on TV and I trained them how to be advocates. And so I had to speak in front of people. And so, the public speaking was a skill I gained through my career. And then it turned into a actual career because people would call me after I left NCBA and say, hey, can you come talk about advocacy? And I was like, well, I don't work there anymore, but I'll still come and do it. And so that's how it started, is people were just calling me. Well, now, like, I speak about different topics. I'm a keynote speaker now, but it's not just like my keynotes are not advocacy and how we can stand up or animal rights is bad. Like they're like, some of them are like motivational and some of them are about advocacy and some of them are about women and like not losing your passion as you become a mother and you go on through life. Like they're different topics now, and I have to like go out and make those opportunities happen. And so people certainly still do call and email, but I'm not going to rely on just hoping that someone calls or someone. So you can do both. Like it doesn't have to be you only get calls from people or you only pitch yourself or you only make opportunities. It's both. Yeah.
No, I agree. Could not agree more. I think, the
high anxiety risk averse buzzard does not like to wait gets nervous if things aren't happening. So I have to like busy myself with making something happen. So
right. The non-stalker Brandi is not about that, but the business Brandi is.
Yeah. The not a stalker operator Brandi does not want to have to wait for stuff to come in. So
I get that. Well, I really appreciate you taking time to sit down and chat with me today. I think we have covered so much good information in so many different areas. So I'm so excited for everyone to hear this episode. But if somebody is wanting to get in touch with you, what is a good way for them to connect?
Okay, well, if someone wants to get touching me, my name is Brandi Buzzard and I'm loud and I have red hair. So literally if you Google me, it's pretty easy to find me. However, if you're looking to follow or, learn more or whatever, I'm on Instagram at Brandi Buzzard. That's Brandi with an I and Buzzard like the bird. My Facebook page is Buzzards Beat. So plural buzzards, pretend there's two of them, Beat, B-E-A-T. And then I have my series on Acres TV. That's watchacrestv.com. Acres is a free streaming service. You can get on Roku, a tablet, any smart TV. It's just like a regular channel. Like it's an app that you add like Disney or you add Amazon Prime, but it's free and it's all agricultural content, entertainment, markets, education, all of it, all free all the time. And so I have my series there. It's Behind the Ranch, but it also has like different discussions of ag trends and issues and policy and stuff. So I would love it if you guys would reach out to me there. So Instagram, Facebook, and watchacrestv.com.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. And I thoroughly enjoyed getting to chat with you finally. And I can't wait to see all of these things continue to flourish and continue to watch you kind of be a voice for agriculture.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I like that hour flew by and we could have kept talking. I've been happy to talk to you for another hour, but thank you so much for having me on. It was really, really great to talk to you. And I hope that our paths cross like in person sometime in the future.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Ag Chicks. Don't forget to follow along on social media at Ag Chicks for more agricultural related content. And also be sure to check out your favorite podcast gear from www.agchicks.net. We'll see you next time.